The rule-based world order and the international organizations, are they all myths of Western hegemony under the US? Events like the NATO intervention in the Kosovo War, Iraq invasion, and countless other events tell us that Western powers bend the rules according to their interests. And when somebody else does that, these countries and organizations become hyperactive. Kanchan says, please elaborate on all the incidents where the US invaded other nations in the name of liberation and no international organization questioned their actions. Good question. I have some data here. So these are US interventions since the Second World War, from the 1940s all the way into the 2020s. China, Syria, Korea, China, Iran, Guatemala, Tibet, Indonesia, Cuba, Congo, Dominican Republic, Vietnam, so on and so forth. So many interventions. And yet it does not mention here the intervention, the invasion of Yemen, the genocide that's happening in Yemen as we speak. It also doesn't talk about the US financing of Pakistani terrorism in India for 2-3 decades. It doesn't, that is also not mentioned here. The Americans financed Pakistani terrorism in India from the 1980s onwards. We know what happened in Kashmir, right? The ethnic cleansing of the Kashmiri Hindus in 1989, 1991. So all of that was financed by the Americans. Who else was financing the Pakistanis? They were essentially saying that we are giving money to Pakistan and arms and ammunition to Pakistan to end terrorism in Pakistan and to defeat the Soviets in Afghanistan. To defeat terrorists, you don't need to give a nation F-16s and fighter planes, but that's what they did. They always knew that these planes would be used against India, and they were fine with that. So the Americans financed Pakistani terrorism in India and so much more. So these are some of the interventions that the Americans have done across the world. So the so-called rules-based world order, it is a fairy tale. It's a myth. When they do it, it's perfectly fine. If somebody else does it, it's a terrible sin, and you need to dump sanctions on that country. So that's the thing, right? So when you are the most powerful country in the world, you make the rules and you break the rules whenever you feel, and nobody's going to question you. That's how it works. But now things are changing. You can see on even the mainstream media channels, everybody is calling out the hypocrisy and the track record.